Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and part 4 of the Plastic Models for Beginners Tamiya 1/35 scale Panzer Kampfwagen 38T. So last time we left off with the mostly completion of step 6. Now I had said that I was not going to actually glue the wheels and stuff on because of the tracks, and today I'm going to show you why. Okay, I'm starting from the very end first. So here are the tracks for the left hand side. I just want to show you how they look and talk a little bit about what I'm trying to accomplish here and why, and then we'll get cracking on actually building the tracks for the other side. Okay, now depending on how you build your kit or how you want to build your kit, you can just glue all this stuff on here so it's all in place. For me, I like to, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate on this build, I like to weather the lower hull, the running gear and everything, before I glue the fenders on in this case. I may glue the fenders on, I may not, but we'll look at that in a minute. But I like to leave this stuff all apart so I can paint and weather it all separately and then install it. And the reason being is it's a lot easier to weather behind these wheels if they're not in place. So whenever I assemble the tracks, I leave one end disconnected. And the reason I do that is because once I get them all laid out on the running gear, then I can take them off, take the wheels off, and that way I can do the painting as I mentioned. Now you see this gap right here? That is very easily dealt with, and I'll show you how I do it. In this case, there are holes in the tracks for the drive sprocket. So just by sticking my tweezers in those holes, I can get it to overlap properly to glue together and get a nice snug fit all the way around, and it all looks pretty dandy. Okay, that's why I do that. Now one thing as we're building to keep in mind is I want to avoid where there's joints between the lengths and the individual links. I want to avoid kinks, like real sharp transitions. It needs to flow smoothly here, 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 and here. And I'll show you how I accomplish that, hopefully. But yeah, that's how it looks. So now, since these have had plenty of time to dry, and you want to let them dry for quite a while, and again, I'll talk about that later, that way you don't have to worry about them coming apart when you take them off like this, hopefully. Well, watch this. This is the nice thing about these being on poly caps. You can gently, oh, you know what? First thing I can do is I can take this idler off. Then I can take these wheels off. That's why there's tape on there, is to hold all those wheels together, because there's the loosest fitting of the wheels. Like that. And then just grab this and it pulls right off. Then you can get this, hopefully, if it hasn't stuck. Yeah, there we go. You just don't want your glue to stick to it. Just like that. Now everything is ready to paint. Okay? So that's what we want to end up with. So now let's actually put it into practice on the other side. And the reason I have these poster tack on here is to give it a little grip while I'm working on it on the desktop here. So let's get this on here. Make sure it's kind of snug there. And let's begin. The first thing I want is a piece of tape sticky side up, and that will assist in gluing the tracks together. Now, the track that I did was the left side. So we're going to do the right side, so this is flipped around. So some things to look for. Attach parts in numbered order. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Fit tracks to wheels before cement is cured. And I'll go over what that means in a minute. You also want to make sure that you have the tracks going the right direction. So the way the tracks, it's easy for the length part because the sag fits a certain way. The bottom part, and then once you have that located, then it's just a matter of making sure you're going the right direction all the way around. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach drive sprocket, idler, and the wheels on here ready for whenever we start to fit the tracks. So all I do is I take this, and it's a pretty tight friction fit. Well, it was on the other side, but of course not on this side, but it doesn't matter. And then this one fits here like that. Whoops. And then we'll take our 4 road wheels. That one fits kind of underneath the teeth, so you'll have to make sure you get that on correctly. These in place. Like that. Then we need a piece of tape. I'll just reuse the tape I used before because all this, it doesn't matter if it's just fit on there loosely. Put it there. And that just keeps them from wobbling around too much. Okay, so we got that. So next thing we need to do is we need to remove all of the parts from the sprue. Okay, and there's basically, it's real easy. You've got P1, which is the long strip that goes on the top. Then you have J5 that goes around here, which is 8 pieces. Then you have J2, which is the long length that goes between the drive sprocket and the first road wheel. Then one individual J5 link. Then J1 going across the bottom. J6, which is the part that goes from the rear road wheel up to the idler. And then you have 7 J5s to go around the idler. So let's cut all those off. So let's see. First, we need the long strip P1. I do the same thing as before. Cut it back from the track a little bit. Like that. Then carefully clean it up. Another thing about these tracks is they're same right to left. There is no right and left track. Some vehicles, especially German vehicles, will have left and right, especially on stuff like Panthers or Tigers, stuff like that. There'll be left and right tracks, so you have to pay attention to that. Generally has to do with the track pins that connect them together. They'll have different heads on the inside and the outside, and also they could be longer on one side than on the other. So we'll cut all these off. Then once they're cut off, just sand them a little bit if you need to. Or trim them with a knife, it doesn't matter. Just so you don't have a burr, because that'll show up in painting and weathering. So after that one's cleaned up, we move on to J1, do the same thing. Okay, so now that one's done. So I'm going to go ahead and off camera do J2, J6, and then all of the individual links. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is start gluing this stuff together. So first, I'm going to put this here as a point of reference. Okay, so what I need to do first is put these links together here, which is supposed to be 8. So I'm going to take one of these, and it needs to go this way because, just using this as an example, they fit together like this. There are 3, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on. There's 3 indentations here, a narrow one, 2 wide ones, corresponding spot, so that goes like that. So that's what's pointing forward here, is the 3 protrusions. So this is going to fit there. So we want 8 links connected together, and this is how I do it. Now hopefully I won't get my fat head in the way of the camera, but we'll see. So I put the first one down there like that, then the next one, then the next one. Okay, after I've got these 8 together, then I'm going to put 7 together to go around the idler wheel. I'm going to do those over here. No, I'm not. I'm going to do it right there. Back a little further. Okay, so this with the 8 links is going to be going here. This part with 7 links is going to be going here. However, I'm not going to glue here, which means I'm not going to glue this. So the next thing is to glue these things together. So here's how this is going to work. So since this part right here is going to be gluing, no, this part right here is going to be gluing here, this part needs to glue on this end, the part that wraps underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that right there like that and stick it to the tape. And then on the bottom, you know what? Let's do this. I need to move these links right here because they're going to be in the way. You know how they go together, so we can come back. Actually, I can go ahead and glue those now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue all these together using my Tamiya Extra Thin. Now I'm using extra thin and not quick setting because I want this to stay pliable for a bit. This piece here is also going to go right there. But I may put that on the bottom strip. But anyway, let's glue this together. So basically, I'm just going to take my glue and run it right down the middle. Capillary action will pull it all through the joints. Don't want to be skimpy on the glue on this. It's not going to show up anywhere. We'll lift that one up off the tape, and that's good to go. So we're going to let that dry for a minute or 2 or 5. And while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and glue this here. for the idler. Like that. Then this one little extra link that goes on the bottom here, I'm going to go ahead and glue onto this long strip here and let that dry as well. Alright, so I pulled everything off of the tape. Get the tape out of the way. Then this part goes here. I did that backwards. So the nice thing is, just pull that thing off and put it right here. So this little individual link, I'm gluing this. I've got the long strip for the bottom, the individual link, and then the short one for the front. And I'm going to glue that one into position. So basically we're going to have a flexible spot right here. And then on the back, I'm going to glue the long bottom strip onto the 7 pieces in the back, like that. So we'll have a flexible piece back here. And then let all of this, and then we'll go ahead and glue this part here. Hold on a second here. Getting ahead of myself here, folks. Man, getting way ahead of myself. Glued that on the wrong end. That goes there, the 7 pieces. So you might not want to follow what I'm doing here because I'm getting all mixed up and confusing. But if you follow the instructions, you just glue all the pieces together. I tried doing segments. I should have just glued it all in one whack. But no. I had to go and do it my own way. Alright, so now... That's the nice thing about using this glue. And a prime reason why you shouldn't panic in doing these. Now we're right. Should have done it exactly like the instructions show. So what you end up with is a nice big long stretch. 8 individual links here. Curved length to go from the bottom of the drive sprocket down to another single link that connects to the long strip that goes on the bottom. Then the 7 link solid strip that goes from the rear road wheel up to the idler and the flexible idler pieces, which is a quantity of 7. Got one long strip, so you just let it dry for a while. Okay, so I think we're ready to do this. So here's what I'm going to do. This is going to sit right here, and I'm going to take this and carefully line up the bottom of the wheels with the bottom, or with the ends of the straight parts. Then I am going to carefully whoops, oh man, there we go. Okay, lift this this, wrap it around the drive sprocket. Okay, I'm a little too far forward or backward, so I'm going to move it up just a little bit because I want that one piece I was talking about on the bottom, I want it to curl up and around without having a kink. So I'm going to lift that one by itself like that, get that to bend a little bit, and then come up and around to where it fits on to the top run. So let's see if I can tilt it up without it falling apart. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to make sure that is a gradual bend right there. Make sure that top one there is bent far enough down that it contacts the next one properly, and these are all seated into the excuse me, seated into the guide teeth. So then I'm going to tilt it up again. Okay, that looks pretty good, but it's not quite where I want it, so there we go. Just using my tweezers to kind of squeeze that into place, maybe like that. Okay, so we got that one properly, so I'm gonna put just a little bit, making sure not too much flows in, and I don't want it to glue to the drive sprocket like that. So keep that in place, and then do the same thing in the back here and roll this up like that, and just make sure that it goes far enough that it will touch the back of this top run right here. I hope you can see that on the camera there. Okay, so that looks good. That pulled out, so you got to make sure it's in place. Okay, so let's tilt this up and see what it looks like. This is kind of precarious, and it's a lot harder to do when trying to film it than it is in reality. The one I did on the other side, just no sweat. But we want to make sure that these things are properly curved around their respective wheels, like that. Okay, that looks good. So here's what I'm going to do. I get a little piece of tape, and I'm going to tape this up there like that, just to hold it in place while it dries, because you want this to be a nice smooth curve. You don't want kinks, you don't want sags, you don't want the tracks to be away from the wheels. It's all got to fit and sit naturally like it would on the real thing. And it looks like I have pretty much accomplished that. So I'm going to put a little bit more glue down here to reinforce this joint. And then I'm going to set it aside and not touch it until it has cured and dried fully. So now it is just a matter of letting it sit and cure up really well overnight, probably, so I get a nice solidly connected track run. So I think because of that, and because of the length of time it took to bumble through this, sorry it wasn't more concise, folks, but I tried to show every aspect of it, and I even showed some of the things that can happen, you know, if you're not paying attention like I wasn't. So I think I'm going to end part 4 right here with the tracks, and come back next time. We'll decide on the fenders, start work on the rear hull plate, and just move on from there. So thanks for joining me here for part 4 of the plastic models for beginners, Tamiya 1/35 scale Panzer Kampfwagen 38T. So until next time, if you have any questions, comments, hints, tips, anything like that, put them in the comments section down below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.